Welcome to the Mining Mum podcast. I'm Tegan, your host, and this is a podcast where I interview mining and resource professionals about their tips, tricks, and insights into the industry. So whether you're a seasoned veteran or trying to enter into the industry, this is the place to get some career inspiration. Welcome back to the Mining Mum podcast. I'm Tegan, your host, and today I have Chris with me. Chris is the General Manager of Boom Logistics for the West Coast, and he's here to talk about his career, some tips, tricks, and insights that he can share with us. So Chris, tell us a little bit about your career and how you got to where you are now.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. Always good to catch up. So,
Yes.
Well, I moved to Australia when I just turned 17. And I came over here and was just looking, well, just for a change of life, to be honest, and fell in love with the place pretty much straight away. So I ended up studying a little bit of engineering at TAFE, and then actually got into or went to university and did biomedical science. So there was no rhyme or logic behind that, just pretty much chose it. And that's how I ended up there. Just through life and circumstances, I actually met my wife in my last year of uni, and got her pregnant when we were pretty young. And towards the end, when I was graduating, it was decided, that's when we found out I had to grow up.
Yes.
And then it was time for a career and a job. So how I ended up here is I pretty much phoned a friend to a relative of mine. And that was how I got my break within industry. I got an opportunity, really lucky, really blessed, an opportunity in Perth as a fleet controller. So just doing all the planning, the scheduling, the fleet coordination and people coordination. And that's how my journey started within the crane industry. So from coming from England with no plan, doing a little bit of engineering at TAFE, doing biomedical science, and then ending up in the crane industry. And here I am, maybe 12, 13, 14 years later. So yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Wow, that's crazy. So biomedical science.
Yep.
Sounds super fancy.
Super fancy.
So what do you study when you're doing that?
Well, that's a good question because I can't remember anything to do with biomedical science. But look, it's a lot of biology, a lot of chemistry. It's a pre-medical one, but like I said, there was no real logic behind me choosing. I pretty much walked into the university office and they didn't do engineering, and I was an international student. I couldn't afford the fees for the universities that had engineering. So I pretty much said, well, help me choose one.
What can I do?
What can I do? And they asked me a few questions, leading questions, kind of figured out that I liked a bit of science. And then I said, all right, well, which one's the hardest one? And they said, well, biomedical science, pretty much the hardest one. I said, oh, well, we'll give that a crack.
Yeah.
And so that's how I did biomedical science.
Oh my gosh.
And I probably like 2 months into it, I realised, I don't really like this at all, to be honest. But I couldn't afford to change. So I just ended up having to kind of grit my teeth and stick it out and just finish it off. And you know what? That's there's a lot of gold just in that, because sometimes you just have to stick things through and just let it play out. And, you know, I don't believe in Australia, I think it's one of these countries, you don't need to be tertiary educated in terms of going to university to succeed. But what you do is you have to put in the hard work.
Yes.
And through that and, you know, seeing something through to completion, you learn so much. And for me, it was less so about what I studied. And like I did not study much at all through university. I just cruised, to be honest. And so I didn't give the best account of myself, but I saw something through. And that was the discipline of which has led me, I suppose it's given me some opportunities for success moving forward and some learnings, the discipline of habits and just showing up and being consistent, whether you like something or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
That's so good.
You might not like it, but you might bear the fruits later on down the track.
Yeah. And so you mentioned you went into fleet controller as your first kind of crane role. What did you learn in that role that's helped you go through your career all the way up to the general manager of those companies?
Yeah, well, I learned a lot. It was a baptism by fire, and the industry was very different when I started. It was hard nosed. It's softened up a lot now, and you know I think that's a good thing as well. But the method was very much kind of, you've got to break people to make them. And look, I don't agree with that anymore, but that's how I came up.
Yes.
But what what it allowed was you had to go through a lot of adversity because you were in fight and flight all the time, and there was such a lot of shifting parts always. And so what it taught me was, like, I was on the phone and I was working my first jobs, and, you know, relative to what I was on previously, I was so blessed, and I was like, I'm thankful for the opportunity. I was happy I was getting paid what I was getting paid. I look at it now, like, I couldn't survive off that. Times are very different, but I was working all the time, 7 days a week.
Wow.
Taking phone calls, you know, from, you know, 5:30 in the morning till 8-9 o'clock at night. But it taught me like hard work, like in terms of that's what it is. And if you want to be successful, you've got to put the hard work in.
Yeah.
One of my, I suppose, a core memory in terms of when I was becoming a fleet, or when I was a fleet controller, some of the operators, you interface with them a lot. And I was having chats with them as I did. And we end up going on to a story in terms of where do you want to be when you're X amount of time. And I said, look, by 40, I want to be retired.
Yeah.
Or I want to be this and that. And he just laughed in my face. He laughed in my face, said, good luck. And you know what I mean? I said, oh, well, you know what? That's okay. But that kind of, I carried that little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Plus, there was a few other conversations personally with other people that said, like, you're dreaming. Like, you will never be on this. You'll never get to that position. You'll never get beyond that. And so I kind of carried that little bit of a chip on my shoulder, like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And that for a few years was my kind of a bit of a motive. I'm past that now because I was like, you know what? That's, you got to move on from that stuff, and you got to do stuff for yourself, not to prove somebody else right or wrong. So, but like that's what I learned. I learned a lot about myself. I learned about my ability to take on stress and to manage through it. And life is stressful. Yeah. So you can't go through this life experiencing or not experiencing stress, not if you want to achieve anything meaningful.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really good, you know, coming from the ground up and then going on to lead those teams. You would have known the intimate details about each of those cranes, like what it takes to get it to somebody, or you know, manage the operators, manage the riggers, how to get them to a job on time, and all of those things. Yeah. So then, from fleet controller, how did you kind of branch into those leadership roles?
Yeah, well, I think like I got an opportunity probably a year into my role to move up to Port Hedland. So, and we were very lucky and very blessed to call Port Hedland home for near on 10 years. So we moved up there as a family, as a local. I didn't. So my wife had never been up to Port Hedland. When the first time she went up to Port Hedland was the plane, and she came off, and it was a 45-degree day, and that was her moving there. I'd been doing FIFO for a few months, so I'd kind of conditioned myself a little bit as best as you can. But she hadn't been up there before. In Port Hedland is where I suppose I gained real practical application and kind of took my career to the next kind of level. Just in terms of scale and volume, you start dealing with more complicated, you know, more bigger volume, more jobs, more complicated clients, mining, construction. Yes. And that's what it is. Over the course of my near on 10 years there, ended up just progressing through the ranks. I did fleet controlling for a few years and then moved up into the management role and took care of, you know, projects and contracts and really key ones. And that taught me a lot. And it was through, I suppose, stepping up each time. I just learned something else different about myself. Yeah. So when I was fleet controlling on a different volume, I learned more about myself. Then I became a manager. Now I'm suddenly leading teams, and then I'm leading teams on teams when we get contracts and projects. So, and then it becomes complicated because you're just going to be very aware that it's not just you anymore, and you're siloed in your job. What you do affects 50, 100, sometimes 150 people. So
when you went into your first leadership team and you were managing multiple people, so going from like supervisor, superintendent into those manager roles, what kind of mindset or skills did you take to navigate managing multiple teams? Because it's obviously a skill. Or did you have coaches or mentors that kind of helped you through that?
I did. One of the biggest challenges that I faced was, so for one, look, ethnically, I was different color to everybody else. So that was a challenge but I've faced that through almost all my life in any case. But then I was younger than everybody I was leading. And I'm not talking by a couple of years, by a lot. So, you know, I was 28 when I got my management gig, my first one. I had to learn so much about managing not just people that had been peers with or reported to, I was now managing them, but also managing the age gap in terms of the generations. That took a lot.
Yes.
So I had an external coach that helped like our team in general in terms of communication and just establishing some good framework about how we communicate, what it means. And that really helped in my early years navigate me through a storm, because the first 2 years of my management was stormy. It was stormy times. It was difficult. And it was difficult because I was coming in and it was essentially, it wasn't like you never come in and it's smooth sailing. It was almost a little bit of a cleanup job.
Yes.
And just battling with that and all the other factors, plus my own insecurities in terms of self-doubt, like, am I up for this? Like, can I do this? Do I know how to manage people?
Young
can
kids
I lead
at home
people?
too.
Well, I had one at that time.
Yeah.
And actually, yes, my second was underway or was close to being born. So I was like, well, this is next level in terms of the stress that's in terms of our household and everything. But like how I helped navigate that is external coach, but also my wife.
Yes.
So my wife is like my rock in terms of for our family.
Yeah.
And through like everything is she's like my equilibrium and keeps everything in order and in check. So when I go home, I'm just a dad, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what position I am. It's like I'm a dad, I'm a husband in terms of what it is. And she's real with me. She keeps it real. So if she doesn't like something, she'll tell me and I'm like, okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's you always need that reality check as well, because sometimes you can go a little bit too far and you're like, hey, hold up a second, you're not at work now.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
And talking about the kids, we were talking before, you know, you had 2 girls, so you called yourself, now you have a son, but you're a girl dad.
Girl dad, yeah.
What kind of legacy do you like think about as a leader for your children? What type of leader do you want to be to show your kids?
Yeah, well, I just think you've got a big responsibility for the generation that comes next. I call myself a girl dad because my first one was a girl, so that softened me up immeasurably. And I just saw life through a different prism. And you know, I'm getting off topic, but I watch like some movies now, and I'm like get emotional. And I used to be like, and I'll be like, what is wrong with me? But that comes from being a girl dad. I think you soften up.
Yeah.
But the legacy I kind of want to leave them is like I want them to like instill in them like really good core values of who they are as people, because I think in this world, like with TikTok, with Instagram, it's really easy to see the highlight reel and for people to be influenced by what they think they want to be. But they need to be secure enough in themselves and knowing who they are, what they stand for. Yeah. And you know what? Hard work is part of that. Like you've got to work hard to get to where you want to be. But you've got to be goal orientated as well. Like if you want to be somewhere, then that's okay. That's cool. Yeah. We'll help you get there, but you've got to put the hard work in. So I just want them to be good people, work hard, be contributing members of society, like caring, compassionate, and hopefully get opportunities. And I think there is a lot of opportunities for them. But the legacy is I wouldn't want the industry that they go in to be like what our industry was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. And I think it's a lot more tolerant and a lot better than it was, but there's still work to do.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about the crane industry, what are some of those entry-level roles that people can apply for that they're coming out of uni or they're coming from a different career? How can you kind of get a foot in the door?
Yeah, well, there's a crane operations traineeship, which cool. Is a couple-year traineeship where you learn the basics in terms of rigging, and then that you scale up in terms of crane operations, so you get your tickets, and that gives practical experience as well. From an office perspective, like for me, I just relate to my own experience. I think fleet controlling is an excellent starting point because it teaches you so many like skills and so much about yourself, and you can progress. And if you understand how to manage fleet, it's not just that you're managing people, you're managing egos, you're managing emotions, you're managing clients. So I think within a fleet controlling aspect, you're learning HR, you're learning a little bit about contractual stuff in terms of what your obligations are. You're learning like good, I suppose, mechanisms to cope, to strategize, to plan. So you have to be organized and structured, because a good fleet controller is always organized, almost to the point of OCD.
Oh, that's,
so you learn about maintenance in terms of, you know, you have to schedule stuff in. So I think that's a really good starting point. Another one that I see is engineering. There's a lot more lot of people going into the engineering field, and engineering within cranes and lifting is very interesting. So engineering is always a really good avenue to come in as well.
Yeah, that's so good. Let's go back to your current role now. So you are the general manager of the whole of the West Coast.
Yep.
So big operations.
Big operation, yeah.
What does a day in the life look like for you?
Oh, that's what I will say is the day, it's cliche, but it's never the same. So sometimes I think it's very seasonal. Sometimes it can be like really heavy in tenders because we're trying to tender for works and opportunities. Other times we're really in peak shutdown season. So it's about being boots on the ground, or just the planning and the execution, supporting the office team and the site teams to do it. Others, it's I'm out on site with them as well. You know, I'll be going to Port Hedland and Newman next week and spending time with my teams over there because they're remote and regional and they live locally and work locally in those regions. But you know, I need to go and spend some time with them, which is good. I enjoy doing it as well. It breaks up my week, so it changes all the time, honestly. But look, I primarily based out of the office, but I love going and to site and wearing the high-vis. Like I lived in Canada for 10 years and I pretty much wore high-vis every single day.
Yeah, I miss it too.
I moved to Perth. Well, I didn't need any clothes.
Yeah,
I lived
exactly.
in high-vis.
Yeah.
But I moved to Perth and I realised, oh, well, I don't really get to put the high-vis on anymore. And look, sometimes I get bogged down in the office and stuff, but a lot of my core team, in terms of do all the guts work in terms of the operations that run, and it is a big operation, majority of them are based in Perth in there. So I spend a lot of time in East Rockingham in our head office.
So good. And you said like through your fleet control, you were very organized, disciplined. Do you have any daily non-negotiables? Because I know like some successful leaders, they have their set routine, they're up at 4 a.m, gymming, reading books.
Yes.
So do you have any of those non-negotiables?
I do now.
Yeah.
So I go to the gym in the morning for 45 minutes to an hour. And now I've recently introduced sauna.
Oh, so I love the sauna.
I'm into the sauna.
Yes, I need to get into it.
Some people go, I don't understand how you can sit in the room and feel like death. And I'm like, well, I lived in Port Hedland for a few years.
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
It's nothing new to me. But so I do gym and sauna. You know what? Sauna's probably like in the last 2 months it's been introduced, but the thing that's really helped me is clarity of thought, because I actually switch off.
Yes.
Like my brain is generally working. I'm a little bit OCD and I just can't stop. I don't switch off very well.
Yeah.
In the sauna, I actually just relax. And the gym,
That's
I just
what
relax.
I find as well with the sauna. Like I'm not good at any type of meditation, yoga.
I try.
As soon as I go to the sauna, that's the only place that I can not think.
I've tried those as well. I've tried the breathing techniques, the meditation, and then my brain is like, oh, there's a squirrel over there or this.
Exactly.
And I just get distracted. So so that's like my morning routine. And what I think as I kind of age, I'm realizing is if you don't take care of yourself from kind of physically or mentally, particularly mentally now is what I'm switching to, is there's no longevity.
Yeah.
And life gets difficult and hard, and little things that really aren't little, or they're really little, they become much bigger because you get worn down over time with, like, mentally speaking.
Yeah.
So having, I think, good practices where you're kind of taking that little bit of time out for yourself. And I that's it. For me, gym and the sauna are my switch off, because when I come home, I'm got to be in dad and husband mode. So I'm running after the kids. I'm taking them swimming on the weekends and this kind of stuff. So there's not a lot of spare time when you're working during the week, Monday to Friday, long hours. So that for me is where I get my catharsis kind of thing.
Yeah, that's so good. And what about any additional study over that time, those 12 years through your career? Have you done any more study?
I've done like courses and leadership courses for the Australian Institute of Management. I've done a few different courses, and they give you some really practical ones. I've had external coaches, so that's really helped me a lot. I'm a big believer, if you want to be a good leader, you've got to kind of surround yourself with people who are smarter and wiser than you.
Yes.
Like if you surround yourself with people where, like that old saying, you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yes.
So I've been really lucky that I have a personal mentor, so who holds me accountable if I'm making decisions in my personal life. Yeah, that's challenge me on that. But also in terms of a work sense, I have a work one where I can talk through those problems and say, hey, and it's periodic catch up. Yeah, I say, why are you doing that? Have you considered this? And just a different perspective. Suddenly you go, well, actually, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or that's a eureka moment. I think I'll try this, and just practical tips,
Yeah.
So that, for me, more so than any kind of courses or like a formal study,
Yeah.
having really good people, like good-hearted people who genuinely care for me, but also challenge me. That's where I think I've progressed as a human, not as a leader, as a human, and naturally as a leader.
Yeah, definitely. And there's nothing you can study that will prepare you for leadership and learning all those mistakes and going through those challenges.
Exactly. And you know what? Because you got to have that adversity where for you to kind of introspectively look inside and go, hey, you got to handle that better, or why did you do that? So look, I've by no means am I a perfect leader. In fact, I've got plenty of flaws, so many. You can ask my team, so many flaws. But one of the things that I'm big on is, like, you try and bring your true self to work.
Yeah.
You spend so much time there. Like, I want all my people to be able to bring themselves to work. They don't have to put on a mask or a veneer and go, or hide behind it and go, everything's all good and this and that.
Yeah.
I would just go, yes. I want them to go, no, challenge that and go, hey, I don't agree with that. And I think that's good, because that's healthy, because I think sometimes we have a tendency to, I've seen people, they just kind of nod along and say, yep, we're along for the journey, or they hide their true self from who they are. And that's difficult. You spend so much time at work.
Yeah.
Like, if you're putting an act and you're being someone you're not, I don't think that's necessarily a good place to be.
No, I agree. And before we wrap up today, what is your one piece of advice that you have for anybody that is doubting themselves about their next step into leadership?
One bit of advice. Okay, here we go. I've got to give you the soundbite, don't I? Look, I think they've got to look within themselves and realize, I say this, leadership is influence, and you've got to be wary of the shadow you cast. But everybody has what it takes to be a leader. It's just whether you want to step up and take that mantle. And if you've got to actively make that decision first, because even if you don't think you're a leader, there will be opportunities or things within your life that you're doing that you're actually displaying leadership attributes. You just never recognize them, or somebody's never pointed them out. So probably just take back and go, actually, I am capable of being a leader. And you know what? Even if I don't think I am, I'm going to step into it, and maybe I'll try something different where it pushes me out of my comfort zone. Because I think if you push yourself out of your comfort zone, that's where any good leader has experienced. They've been very uncomfortable multiple times, and that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Then they can display like something that comes from within them. I think that's what it is. You've got to give yourself the opportunity to step into it, and you got to believe. If you don't believe in yourself, then I don't know, who else is going to believe in you, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
No
Thank
worries.
you so much for this session today. It was so great to catch up again, and I feel like I've learned a lot that I need to go and work on myself, internalize, and get back to the sauna.
Get back to the sauna.
Yes.
So you won't regret it.
No, I need it. Amazing. Thank you so much.
See ya.
See ya.